Hi guys, I'm Kalila Reynolds and we're back with another episode of Money Moves brought to you in partnership with Eggs and Banks Business Advisory Service. Today we're talking about leadership, how to be a better, more effective leader. And I'm joined by Cathy Goodall. She's a leadership and mentorship coach. She gives training and talks in this area. Hi Cathy.
Hi Kalila, thanks for having me.
Well, let's get straight into it. You talk about this all the time. You give tips, you give speeches, training as well on being an effective leader. What are the keys to being a good leader?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to understand is that there's a major difference between management and leadership.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people think that because you're a manager, it makes you a leader, and that's not the case. So I think 3 quick tips that we could talk about today, or 3 good qualities of a leader, are 1, knowing yourself. So you have to be able to understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, so that you can know how to capitalize on your strengths, and then surround yourself with the people that you need to make up for those weaknesses. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would say is that you need to be open to changing yourself as a leader. So once we identify what the things are that you need to work on as your weaknesses, you need to be open to making the adjustments, and you need to be open to criticism. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us tend to get defensive when people criticize us, but if you're in a position of leadership, you want to be able to navigate through those comments and really do some introspection and figure out, is there some truth to the criticism? What can I learn from it? And what do I need to adjust to be better? Mm-hmm. And the third tip I would say is that we need to be able to listen, because the best leaders are good listeners. 1, it helps us to learn. It helps us to understand what's happening around us. It helps us, most of the people that report to us know what's happening on the ground. And if they feel comfortable enough to speak to us about what's happening, then it will also help us to prevent problems from escalating. They'll feel comfortable to come and speak to us about any issues that they're having before it becomes a real problem. And thirdly, it will help you to improve your organization, because like I said, people will be more open to speaking to you, people will be more open to giving you feedback, and people will be more open to actually doing for you. Mm-hmm.
Now, you spoke earlier about the difference between being a manager and a leader. What's the main difference, you'd say?
Well, I think management generally is positional, and leadership is having the ability to get people motivated and have people want to do for you without having that position of leadership. I know assistants that have more power than their bosses because they can mobilize people in ways that their bosses would never be able to mobilize people. Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the importance of listening, I know there's something called go in one ear,
that's correct,
go the other ear. Active listening.
Active listening is very important, because I think that a lot of us, like you said, people talk to us and we hear them, but we're not paying attention. And when people realize that we are paying attention, that we are listening, and then they see you actually take action based on feedback that they've given you, it makes a world of a difference. And people will be more open to continuing to give you that feedback. They'll be more open to actually mobilizing people around them to be more open to you and to give you, to continue to have that listening ear on the ground.
You started out by saying that you really need to know yourself as well, know yourself inside and out, which can be difficult.
Yeah.
It can be difficult to recognize flaws about yourself and sometimes even the good things about yourself.
Yes.
How would you suggest people do that introspection?
Well, 1, I think it's easy to ask people around you. My girlfriend, Naomi Garrick, she will tell you to find 10 people and ask them for feedback about who you are. What are 10 things that come to their mind when they think of you? And you'll find that, and ask different people, ask people that you work with, ask people that, are your family members, your friends, so that you can see how people see you. Mm-hmm. And then compare it to how you see yourself. And that will give you some real introspection.
It sounds like you've done it.
I have. I've done it several times, actually, and I was actually very surprised at some of the feedback that I got. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So would you suggest doing that with your employees?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that if your employees are open, or they know that you're open to the feedback, they will be more honest with you.
Should you make it anonymous?
Well, I definitely think if it's anonymous, people will be more free to share. So I would say start by making it anonymous. That would be a great idea. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then maybe discuss it later.
And definitely discuss it later. That's a good segue to building a bridge. Because once they realize that you're actually receptive to the feedback, then maybe they will give the feedback more often without the anonymity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the important thing is to maintain those channels of communication. Don't let people feel intimidated. Great tips, Cathy. I know you have some more for us, but you have to stay tuned for the next episode of Money Moves. We'll have Cathy back to tell us how you can be a better leader. Well, you can find more information on Exim Bank's website, eximbankja.com. That's it for this episode of Money Moves, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service. I'm Kalila Reynolds. See you next week.